I turned down my acceptance letter from state, telling Rose I didn't get in, that I'd have to take a gap year. The next fall, on the first day of freshman move-in, I stood at the gates of Westwood University. I stood right in front of her, a year behind, officially the underclassman. But her eyes just scanned me up and down with a look of pure disdain. You're still so country. Who even wears work boots like that anymore? And are you serious with that duffel bag? She sneered. It's embarrassing. From now on, at school, don't tell anyone you know me. I did as she wished. I started to walk away. But then she grabbed my hand, her eyes turning red. You said you'd always be with me. I looked at her blankly. Who are you? I don't think we've met. Rosie, over here. I spotted her instantly in the swarming crowd. Even in the sweltering August heat, her smile was bold and unrestrained, like the wildflower she was named after. I waved both arms, but her smile froze on her face. On the whole bus ride here, I'd imagined 100 different versions of our reunion. This wasn't one of them. How did you get into Westwood? She grabbed my arm and pulled me away from the crowd, finding a secluded corner behind a registration tent. Her voice was sharp with irritation. The moment she saw me, her mood had soured. Rosie, aren't you happy to see me? I clutched the acceptance letter in my pocket, my lips pressed into a thin line, completely at a loss. It's move-in day. Why are you dressed like that? It's 2025. Who wears an old flannel shirt and work boots? And couldn't you have bought a suitcase? Did you really think hauling that beat-up duffel bag around would look good? The contempt on her face was undisguised, the disgust practically spilling from her eyes. Just standing next to you is embarrassing. At school, you're not to tell anyone you know me. I stared at her familiar face, but it felt like I was looking at a stranger. The perfect makeup, the bright red lipstick, the crop top that barely covered her stomach, the denim shorts so frayed they showed glimpses of her thighs. It had only been a year, but she was a completely different person, and it seemed she'd forgotten a lot of things. She forgot that these boots were the last gift from her grandpa, the one she once swore she'd wear forever because they reminded her of home. She forgot what she told me a year ago when she left Clear Creek, her eyes blurry with tears. Caleb, what am I going to do without you? Please, you have to come be with me. She forgot the look on her face when I tore up my acceptance letter to Ohio State and told her I didn't get in, that I was taking a gap year. She was so happy then, telling me she'd wait for me. And inside the duffel bag she found so repulsive was a jar of her Nana's famous apple butter, her absolute favorite, and a hand-stitched quilt Nana had spent all winter making for her dorm bed. I didn't take them out. I had a feeling she wouldn't need them anymore. Rose, is that a friend of yours? People were constantly walking by, waving hello to her. She forced a tight smile for each of them, explaining, he's a freshman this year. Looked like he was from out in the sticks, so I figured I'd show him the ropes. It was true. Standing next to her now, I looked completely out of place. Wow, Rose, you're still as two-faced as ever, aren't you? A new voice cut in. That's not what you were saying to the new kid a second ago. The hypocrisy is just. Chef's kiss. A girl rounded the corner of the walkway and stopped in front of us. Rose's face flushed a deep crimson. Chloe, what the hell are you talking about? You're just jealous that people actually like me. If you're so fond of this hick, you can have him. Rose shot a contemptuous look between me and the new girl, then stormed off. Ha, wow, struck a nerve. The girl laughed. What was so funny about any of this? I couldn't figure out what went on in these people's heads. Hey, I'm Chloe Jiang, she said, her smile bright and confident as she extended a hand. Rose's mortal enemy. I'm Caleb Shaw. Rose's. I reached out to shake her hand, but hesitated. I didn't know what to call myself anymore. Her childhood friend, the boyfriend I'd wrongly assumed I was, or just some guy from her hometown she used to know. Chloe smiled knowingly and didn't press. She just grabbed my hand and slung an arm around my shoulder. Well, we're friends now. You need anything, you call me. I thought she genuinely wanted to be friends. It wasn't until later that I realized she was just using me, too. I was just a pawn in her rivalry with Rose. Caleb, get to the quad, now. Rose is fighting with someone. I was in a library studying when Chloe called. It had been over a month since move-in day, and even though we were at the same school, I hadn't seen Rose once. I'd heard plenty about her, though. She was a big name on campus. One day, she was leaving a love letter for the basketball team captain. The next, she was bringing him a home-packed lunch, the day after she was dedicating a song to him on the campus radio station. I'd grown numb to it, but a physical fight? That was serious, and it could get her in real trouble. Besides, before I left, her Nana had made me promise I'd look out for her. I paused, then quickly packed my things and bolted for the quad. It wasn't what I expected. The scene was clearly set for a grand romantic gesture. Roses and candles were arranged in a giant heart. Rose stood in the middle of it, wearing a flowing red dress and holding a bouquet of brilliant red roses. She was smiling, looking right in my direction. My heart started pounding, a heavy, frantic rhythm against my ribs. A hot flush crept up my neck. Is she about to confess to me? The rose is passionate and persistent, just like my love for you. She held the bouquet and walked slowly toward me, smiling with every step. As she took the final step, I moved forward, reaching out my hand, ready to accept her love. But her gaze drifted past me, to someone standing right behind me. Her smile widened. You really know how to make me wait. A deep male voice rumbled from behind. She lifted the hem of her dress and glided past me, running straight to him. I froze, my hands still half raised in the air. I blinked, my eyes suddenly dry and stinging. If you hadn't shown up, this rose might have belonged to someone else. Her voice was playful, sweet with a love that felt like 1,000 tiny needles piercing my heart. I knew you wouldn't pick anyone else. Emmy the tiger sniffs the rose. See, we're a perfect match. And besides, I'm here now, aren't I? His voice was low, laced with a smirk. A moment later, I heard the sound of them kissing. They were so close I could hear their ragged breaths. The students around them started cheering. Again. I was the only one left standing there, awkward and utterly alone. The sounds finally stopped. Thanks for all your help tonight. Everyone, I finally got my man. The perfect love story had reached its happy ending. The only sacrifice was me, the prop. Caleb, I've been looking all over for you. What are you doing here? Chloe appeared at my side, her hand gently taking mine, which was still dangling uselessly in the air. She saved me. I let her lead me away. Looking back, I saw Rose wrapped in a tight embrace with a guy with loud, dyed red hair and an unlit cigarette dangling from his lips. He radiated a kind of lazy, bad boy energy. So this was the campus heartthrob, Ryder Stone. The one Rose had been chasing for over a year. Rose leaned into his chest, her smile ecstatic, but her eyes, when they met mine, were fixed on my hand holding Chloe's. And her look was venomous. Congratulations, Rose. A year of chasing and you finally landed our BMOC, Chloe announced, raising our intertwined hands for everyone to see. And congratulations to me, too. Looks like I finally found someone I like. The smiles on the other two faces faltered. Rose's expression darkened with annoyance. Ryder's eyes flashed for a second before returning to a cool indifference. I was stunned, instinctively trying to pull my hand back, but Chloe held on tight. She didn't linger, just turned and pulled me away. Once we were far from the crowd, she let go of my hand, her whole body slumping. She forced a weak smile. Okay, so I helped you out back there. How are you going to repay me? I just stared at her, silent. She paced back and forth, running a hand through her hair in frustration, before stopping in front of me again. She dropped her shoulders, her voice losing its edge. Okay, fine. I admit it, that was my fault. I'm sorry. I overheard Rose planning this big confession tonight. I figured if you were there, you'd ruin it for her. I didn't think she'd actually use you as a prop. She's so shameless. She has a guy who's been in love with her forever, and she's still chasing after someone else. Trying to have it both ways. She kept rambling, a torrent of words so different from the cool, confident girl I'd met before. You like Ryder, don't you? I cut her off. She looked up, startled, her mouth slightly agape. The question caught her so off guard that the truth slipped out. How did you know? I don't want to be part of your drama, I said, my voice tired. Don't look for me again. Rose, she's just a girl from my hometown. Who she likes has nothing to do with me. It was late. I was exhausted and just wanted to go back to my dorm. But before I could leave, Chloe was back at my side, her energy renewed. Don't you want to make them mad? You could pretend to be my boyfriend. I could even help you and Rose back. How about it? I just walked faster, leaving her chattering behind me. 6. I underestimated her persistence. She made me her new project. Wherever I went, she was there. The rumor that Chloe Jiang was trying to win me overspread like wildfire across campus. Even Rose tracked me down, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Are you really getting involved with her just to piss me off? She's not right for you, Caleb. You should ignore her. I looked up at her. She's not right for me, but you are? She choked on her words, looking away guiltily. I've always seen you as a brother. A bitter smile twisted my lips. Do brothers kiss each other? Did you forget the night of our high school graduation, when you stood on a table and told the entire party you were in love with me? How long has it been? And you've already moved on? Your love is pretty cheap. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking straight, she said, getting flustered, but her tone quickly turned demanding. But still, you're not allowed to like anyone else. Especially not Chloe. And why is that? I asked, watching her meltdown with cold detachment. If she didn't love me, then we should just go our separate ways. You promised Nana you'd always be with me. She had the nerve to bring her grandmother into this. I let out a scornful laugh. How long has it been since you went back to see Nana? Her face went rigid. She just stood there, speechless. Since the day she'd gotten into college and left Clear Creek, she hadn't been back once. She'd forgotten how long it had been since she'd even bothered to call her. Nana, who walked to the edge of town every morning and every evening, just in case. She'd say that if her Rosie came home, she wanted to be the first to see her. 7. I turned and walked away from her. I thought she might actually reflect on her actions, maybe give me some space for a few days. But she acted like nothing happened, and the demands continued. Caleb, can you sign me in for lecture? Caleb, Ryder and I had a fight. I need you to come with me and pretend we're a thing. Caleb. She was getting really good at using me. I didn't want to waste my time on this pointless drama anymore. I turned off my phone and buried myself in the bio lab. My genetics professor saw potential in me and had me assisting with his research, even as a freshman. He said my talent was being wasted at a place like Westwood. I just kept my head down and didn't explain. It was my choice to come here, and I would live with the consequences. But I knew this wasn't my final destination. It was just a layover. I once thought Rose, and I would walk that path together, but now I understood. In the end, life is a journey you walk alone. Getting rid of Rose was one thing, but I couldn't shake Chloe. She found out my schedule from somewhere and started waiting for me outside the lab every day. She changed her entire style. She started sitting quietly, watching for hours as I did the tedious work of cultivating cell cultures. Sometimes she'd even ask a surprisingly insightful question. I could tell she genuinely wanted to learn, whatever her reasons were. And when it came to that, I could never turn her away. I started teaching her, guiding her through the experiments. She was a quick study. She was, at her core, a very smart girl. 8. We grew closer, our conversations flowing easily. We became perfect partners in the lab. But rumors started spreading again, this time saying that Chloe Jiang had cleaned up her act just to win me over. At the end of the semester, Rose showed up again, her hair dyed the same fiery red as Ryder's. So you're still messing around with Chloe just to get back at me. You think she actually likes you? She's just jealous that Ryder's with me. She's playing you, Caleb. The bright red of her hair stung my eyes in the afternoon sun. I squinted, not bothering to argue. I just asked her flatly, how many classes did you fail this semester? Do you even plan on graduating? She scoffed. Who cares if I graduate? Ryder said he'd take care of me. She paused, then added, besides, the allowance my dad gives me each semester is more than most people make in a few years after they graduate. Right. Her father had come back in her life. With his money, it was easy for her to forget that he was the same man who'd abandoned her and her mother, driving her mom to a depression she never recovered from. Not wanting to disappoint Nana, I tried one last time. Are you going home for winter break? She's been waiting for you. She bit her lip, looking uncomfortable. I'm supposed to go to my dad's new place this year. Maybe next time. I knew it. I couldn't imagine how disappointed that little old woman would be. The winter that year was exceptionally cold. The news warned of a polar vortex every day. And every day, the little old woman went to the edge of town to wait. But on New Year's Eve, she slipped on a patch of ice at the crossroads. And she never got up again. With an oxygen mask over her face, she was still whispering, Rosie, Rosie. I called Rose 20 times before she finally picked up. God, you're so annoying. We're setting off fireworks. Nana's in the hospital. It's bad. You need to come home now. Her voice on the other end was furious. Are you so desperate to see me that you'd lie about my grandmother? What is wrong with you? Are you even human? I just talked to her this morning. She was fine. If you ever joke about that again, I swear, I'll never speak to you again. She hung up. When I tried to call back, her phone was off. Nana's eyes, full of a longing she couldn't voice, watched my phone screen go dark. Then, they closed forever. 9. Nana had raised Rose since she was a little girl. When Rose was 3, her father ran off with another woman. Her mother had a nervous breakdown and, 2 years later, walked into a river and never came out. Nana, already old, had to take on the burden of raising a child all over again. My grandma and Nana were neighbors their whole lives. I thought of Nana as my own grandmother. Rose and I grew up together, inseparable. Childhood sweethearts, innocent and pure. Around 15, something shifted, and I fell in love with her. But she was always so bright, so dazzling, that she had a constant swarm of admirers. She never settled on any one of them. I was content to stand in her shadow, thinking I was the one special exception. She used to say she had to get into a good college to take control of her future and make the man who abandoned her regret it. She said, "Caleb, let's get together once we're in college." She said, "Caleb, let's work hard together, and one day we'll come back and take care of Nana." She said, "Caleb, we have to be together forever." When did it all change? Was it the year she didn't get into the university we'd planned to attend together? Was it when her long-lost father showed up and handed her a debit card with a $100,000 balance for spending money? Or was it just the 1 year we spent apart? With Rose unreachable and Nana having no other relatives, my parents arranged the funeral. Nana went from a smiling, wiry little old lady to a black-and-white photo on the wall. She died without ever seeing her beloved granddaughter one last time. 10. When the new semester started, Rose showed up in a bright red puffer jacket, looking festive and cheerful. The color was so bright it hurt to look at. I flinched, turning my head away. She was glowing, walking up to me with her hands behind her back, full of smug satisfaction. "Caleb, Happy New Year. Do you like my new coat?" Ryder helped me pick it out. "It's the holidays. Why are you wearing such dark colors?" I cut her off, my face a blank mask. "Nana's dead." Her words died in her throat. A few seconds later, her voice erupted, sharp and piercing. "Caleb, just because I didn't answer your calls, you're going to curse my grandmother? What is wrong with you? Are you even human?" Her hands at her sides clenched in a tight fist. She was breathing heavily, her eyes blazing with fury, as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. I looked up at her, my voice flat. "Believe it or not, whatever was between us, it's over. Good luck with your life." I turned and walked away, leaving her to shout at my back. "Caleb, how dare you threaten me? Don't you ever come asking me for anything." She wasn't the person I used to know. There was no point in holding on. I threw myself into my research. By my sophomore year, my advisor had me co-authoring several papers. As for Rose, she failed so many classes the year before that she was held back. She'd have to retake her freshman year to get the credits. She and Ryder went to the dean's office to argue, to cause a scene. All they got was a formal reprimand on their records. After that, she just dropped out. Chloe was the one who told me all this. In the end, Chloe wasn't the type to dedicate her life to a research lab. Her visits became less and less frequent. I didn't mind, but for the sake of our friendship, I offered a piece of advice. Just keep your head down and study hard. The last time she came to the lab was the fall of my junior year, right before she was supposed to start her senior internship. She looked awful that day. She forced a pained smile and asked, almost joking, "Caleb, we've known each other for 3 years now. Would you say we're real friends?" "Of course we are." The question was strange. I was at a critical point in an experiment and didn't look up from my work, answering distractedly. "Do you like me?" "What?" Her voice was too quiet. I couldn't hear her, so I turned and asked again. But she just said it was nothing. She told me she was about to graduate and would be going to work at her family's company. We probably wouldn't see each other much anymore. She wanted me to take her out for a farewell dinner. Her treat, she said, to bleed me dry one last time. She was back to her old, sarcastic self, a flash of the girl I first met. I picked a classic local diner. She laughed, telling me I was cheap. "This used to be my favorite spot," I told her earnestly. She smiled, a genuine one this time, and followed me inside, suddenly cheerful. I never expected to see Rose there. "Hi, what can I get for you?" she asked, not looking up, her voice a monotone script. "Rose." Chloe's voice was filled with disbelief. I looked at her, a complicated mix of emotions churning inside me. She flinched and finally looked up at us. "Sorry, you must have me mistaken for someone else." She turned to leave, but I grabbed her arm. "You've been out of school for a year. Why are you here instead of in class? Don't you want to graduate?" She turned back, violently shaking my hand off and glaring at Chloe with pure hatred. "Are you happy now? My dad went bankrupt. I'm broke again, and Ryder wants to break up with me. You win. I can't compete with you anymore." Chloe was still a firecracker. One encounter with Rose was all it took to light her fuse. "Rose, are you insane? Your family going bankrupt has nothing to do with me. And Ryder is a piece of garbage. You're the only one who treats him like some kind of prize. You have terrible taste. You should try reading a book sometime. Maybe it would clear some of the trash out of your head, so you wouldn't be thinking about boys and romance all day long. You." Rose was so angry she was trembling, her face flushed red, but she couldn't find a single word to say back. I rubbed my forehead and stepped in. "All right, both of you sit down. Let's just talk." For the first time ever, the three of us sat peacefully at the same table. Rose and Chloe spent the whole night doing shots. By the end, they were both a complete mess, slumped on the curb outside like lifelong best friends, clinging to each other and sobbing their eyes out, refusing to be separated. I had no choice. I had to call a friend to help me get them both into the same hotel room. The next morning, they woke up, shot each other a cold glare, and walked out of the hotel in opposite directions, back to being strangers who hated each other. I helped Rose apply for financial aid and lent her some money to get her back on her feet so she could re-enroll and finish her degree. She actually listened for once and went back to class. But she'd missed so much that she had to start over as a sophomore. She was a year below me now, my underclassman. The peace didn't last long. One day, she showed up and dropped a stack of cash on my desk. She said she was paying me back with interest. I asked her where she got the money. She looked smug. She and Ryder were back together. She was back to being the bold, unrestrained Rose. She started skipping classes again, failing her courses. She was always running off campus, sometimes not even coming back to her dorm at night. I said nothing. This time, I didn't intervene. She's an adult, I told myself. She has to be responsible for her own choices. The first semester of my senior year, I started preparing for the GREs and grad school applications. I was so busy, I'd almost forgotten about the girl from my hometown. So when her name flashed on my phone, I was stunned. It had been a long time. She was at the hospital, she said. She was pregnant. And Ryder had broken up with her for good this time. He didn't want the baby. My mind went blank, reeling from the onslaught of information. My first instinct was to hang up, to wash my hands of her mess. But then images of Nana flashed through my mind, her smiling face as she held me when I was a child. I sighed a long, deep breath, and I went to the hospital. When I got there, she was sitting alone on a chair outside the OB/GYN clinic, her head bowed low. I sighed again and walked over to her. She heard my footsteps and looked up. She was a wreck, drained, haggard, her eyes swollen from crying. The proud, defiant girl from a few weeks ago was gone. Seeing me, she started crying again. Ryder and I broke up. For real this time. He doesn't even want our baby. He's getting engaged. To Chloe Jeong. It's always Chloe. She always has to take everything from me. She bit out, her face a mask of bitter resentment. What's your plan now? I asked, feeling helpless. I'm going to have this baby. Once he sees the baby, Ryder will definitely come back to me. I took a deep breath, grinding my back teeth together to keep from yelling. Watching her cling to this delusion, I wanted to turn around and walk away. But then I remembered Nana on her deathbed, clutching my hand, whispering Rose's name over and over. I closed my eyes, forced the anger down, and spoke calmly. Does Ryder know? What did he say? I told him. He denies it. He told me to get an abortion, but I want to have it. I'll get a DNA test. Then he won't be able to deny it. She looked up, her eyes blazing with misguided determination. The world tilted. I put a hand against the wall to steady myself. How had she become so naive? The guy doesn't want the child, and she thinks she can use it to trap him. So what if it's his kid? So what if he admits it? Does she really think she can marry into the Stone family with a baby? A family like that would never let their son marry a girl with no connections, no power. The best-case scenario was that they'd pay her off. In the end, the only ones who would suffer would be Rose and the child who would be born without a father. I looked at her, my jaw tight, and asked one more time, "Are you sure you want to have this child? His family will never acknowledge a baby that comes from nowhere. And you, on your own, are not equipped to raise a child by yourself. What will you do?" She broke down completely, burying her face in her hands and sobbing. "Then what do I do? I don't want to get rid of my baby." I rubbed the bridge of my nose, my voice strained. "Let's go. We'll find him and get a straight answer." Rose led me to a bar downtown. He was sprawled in a corner booth, a girl on each arm, looking perfectly at ease. His friends were all doing the same. Birds of a feather. When Rose saw the girls draped all over him, she started shaking with rage. When Ryder saw Rose, his brow furrowed in annoyance. He waved the girls away. "What are you doing here again? Didn't we break up? How many times do I have to tell you we don't work? Don't you get it?" he said coldly, his voice dripping with scorn. "Ryder, I'm pregnant with your child. You can't do this to me. You said it yourself, the tiger and the rose. We were meant to be. You said you loved me. That's why you were with me." Her eyes were red, her voice trembling as she looked at him, utterly heartbroken. I had to turn away. I couldn't watch this train wreck. Of course, Ryder was a bastard. Who knows whose kid that is? Don't pin it on me. It was just a line, sweetheart. You actually believed it? Ha ha, you're so naive. You're the one who threw yourself at me. I wasn't going to turn down a freebie, was I, boys? He jeered, turning to his friends for a laugh. You're the only person I've ever been with. Rose swayed on her feet, her voice full of disbelief. She couldn't accept that the person she loved was this cruel stranger. "Oh yeah, what about him?" He gestured lazily at me with his chin, a smirk on his face. "Isn't he your little side piece? You've known him for years, and now you have the gall to bring him here?" "Ryder!" I clenched my fists, about to lunge at him, when a familiar voice stopped me. "Caleb isn't like that." Someone pushed the door open. I turned. It was Chloe. "What are you doing here?" The three of us, Ryder, Rose, and I, all spoke at once. Ryder looked flustered. Rose looked furious. I was just confused. "Caleb, long time no see," she said, tilting her head and giving me a brilliant smile. She had changed. She seemed calmer, more grounded, nothing like the brash, impulsive girl I first met. "How far are you going to let this go?" she asked, turning her cool gaze on Ryder. At the sight of Chloe, Ryder cleared the room. Soon it was just the four of us. The bar was suddenly silent. Rose was the first to speak, pointing an accusing finger at Chloe. "I knew it. You're the reason Ryder broke up with me." Chloe sidestepped her finger, looking at her with something like pity. "It wouldn't have mattered if it was me or someone else. You and Ryder were never going to work, and his family is not for you. So I'm not right for them. But you are?" Rose shrieked. "Huh, I wish I wasn't," Chloe said with a sad smile. Her eyes, filled with a deep melancholy, seemed to flick toward me for a fraction of a second. Before I could be sure, she had turned back to Ryder. "Uncle Stone asked me to give you a message. He said you can play around all you want, but you're not to tarnish the Jeong or Stone family names. So, are you going to handle this, or should I?" Ryder looked down, silent for a long moment. Then he looked up at Chloe. "I'll do it." Chloe let out a breath of relief, then smiled at me. "Caleb, let's go for a walk." I glanced at Rose, then at Ryder, who was now sitting with his head in his hands. I unclenched my fists, nodded, and followed her out. We found a nearby park. Chloe walked quietly behind me, playfully hopping from one foot to the other, trying to step on my shadow. For a moment, it felt like she was truly herself. "I'm actually pretty jealous of Rose," she said suddenly, catching me completely off guard. I stopped and turned to face her. "Why? You have a loving family, you're wealthy. How could she compare to you?" I didn't understand. She stood a few feet away, the sunlight filtering through the leaves, dappling her face, making her expression hard to read. But her voice was completely serious. "Because she has you." My eyes widened. I was stunned by her answer. "She has all of your devotion. You've always been there for her. She can do whatever she wants, like whoever she wants, because you're always right behind her, ready to pick up the pieces." The sunlight caught in her eyes, making the unshed tears sparkle. She took a deep breath, her voice growing stronger. "Caleb, I like you. I like how focused you are when you work. I like how disciplined and logical you are. I like how you patiently taught me and encouraged me. I like everything about you. But it's a shame. I can't be with someone as good as you. And I know you don't like me. And I don't have the courage to fight my family's plans. Her whole body seemed to deflate. The courage she had just summoned vanished like air from a pricked balloon. I'm marrying Ryder soon, and I'll become the good wife they expect me to be. I fought it, but it was no use. This was the path my life was set on from the beginning. I'm just glad the path took a detour for 3 years. It gave me my best memories. She raised a hand and waved. I have to go, Caleb. Thank you for everything you taught me. And goodbye, Caleb. I hope you live your life exactly as you want to. She turned and walked away, not waiting for a reply. I spoke softly to her, retreating back. You too, Chloe. I hope you find happiness and freedom. Always. It wasn't until her silhouette disappeared that I came back to myself. I realized then that Rose had been standing on another path, watching. I had no idea how long she'd been there, or how much she'd heard. I rubbed my forehead. I still had this mess to deal with. But before I could say anything, she spoke first. So, Chloe was really in love with you. Looking at it now, I guess her life isn't so easy either. I was taken aback, but I didn't engage. I just walked over to her side and asked, so, did you two talk things out? Her eyes were red and swollen. She had clearly been crying, but she seemed calmer now. She lifted her head and spoke, each word deliberate and firm. Chloe was right. Ryder is trash. He offered me a lot of money to get an abortion, to forget him and start over. I said no. I can give up on him, but I can't give up on my child. The thing I hate most in this world is someone who abandons their own kids. I will not become my parents. He wanted a DNA test. He said if it's his, he'll give me a one-time payment of $500,000, and then he and the baby are to have no connection to him ever again. We're never to show our faces to him. And you're just going to let him humiliate you like that? I snapped. The baby will need money. I'm not going to turn down the money. She looked down, gently touching her still flat stomach, and a softness came over her face. My anger suddenly fizzled out. I rested my forehead in my hand, defeated. What about school? What about your future? She looked up, her eyes clear. I'm going to drop out. I'll have the baby first, and I'll figure out the future later. College isn't the only path in life. I know I can do this. I fell silent. I didn't understand her choice, but I respected it. In the end, everyone has to live with their own decisions. I just hope that 10 years from now, she won't regret it. I miss Nana, she said, her eyes shining, a happy smile spreading across her face. I'm going to go home to her. She still didn't believe me. She didn't believe Nana was gone. Seeing her so excited, I couldn't bring myself to say the words. She'd just been through so much. Let her have one more day of peace. Besides, she wouldn't believe me even if I told her. It was better for her to see for herself. I helped her with the withdrawal paperwork at the university, took a few days off, and drove her back home to Clear Creek. Rose was back in the town where she grew up, but there was no one waiting for her at the crossroads anymore. She walked into her old house and saw the black and white portrait of Nana hanging on the wall. She went wild, trying to rip the photo down. I stopped her, telling her calmly that Nana had been gone for a long time, that she shouldn't disturb her peace. She refused to believe it, that her grandmother, the person she was closest to in the world, was gone. She covered her ears and shook her head, struggling against my grip. I don't believe a word of it. Her eyes were wild as she searched the small house for the little old woman. Nana's just mad at me for not coming home. She must be hiding somewhere, trying to teach me a lesson. Watching her descend into madness, I saw I had no other choice. I took her to Nana's grave and showed her the death certificate. Lucille Vance. Female. Born February 3rd, 1935. Deceased January 1st, 2010, 1:00 a.m. Age 74. That day was New Year's Day. The night Nana died, Rose had been with Ryder, celebrating, setting off fireworks. The night I called her dozens of times, and she never picked up. The color drained from her face, as if all the blood had been sucked out of her, leaving only a shell of disbelief. So that was Nana's last day. I didn't even get to see her one last time. The night she died, I was setting off fireworks. That winter, while I should have been in mourning, I was wearing bright red. She collapsed. I was expecting it. I caught her and carried her to the car, taking her to the local clinic. When she woke up, Her eyes were empty. She just stared at the ceiling, silent tears streaming down her face. If you want to keep the baby in your belly, you need to pull yourself together. I stood by her bed, looking down at her. Her eyes finally moved. The doctor said you're not in a good state. It's not a healthy situation to bring a child into. I relayed, telling her the plain truth. The tears flowed faster. She turned her head to look at me. Caleb, you're all I have left. I sighed. Rose, after everything that's happened, don't you get it? The only person you can rely on is yourself. Every step you take, the only thing left behind you are your own footprints. Get back on your feet. I miss the old Rose, the one who wanted to be the master of her own destiny. Not this. This broken person who only knows how to cling to others. And you need to think hard about this baby. Are you capable of giving her a good life? Of raising her to be an independent person? She was quiet for a long time. Then, she raised a hand and wiped the tears from her face. I'm having her. Her voice was firm, resolute. Okay, if after all that, this was still her decision, then I would respect it. And she did. She struggled, but she got back on her feet. She moved back into the old house and bought the small convenience store at the edge of town. Not because she needed the money, but to have something to do. In a small town, tongues will always wag. An unmarried, pregnant young woman was bound to be the subject of gossip and disapproving stares. But she didn't argue, didn't fight. She just put on blinders, closed her ears, and went about her days. She never wore red again. Like a rose after a storm, her color had faded, her vibrancy gone. 19. When the break was over, I went back to school. Before I left, I quietly asked my mom to keep an eye on her. My mother stared at me, suspiciously. Did you do something, boy? If that baby is yours, you better take responsibility. She's an orphan, that girl. You can't go around taking advantage of people. I had no choice but to tell her the whole story. When I finished, my mother was quiet for a long time. She's a child I watched grow up, she finally sighed. We can't just abandon her. Don't you worry. From now on, she's my goddaughter. That makes her your sister. You understand me. She twisted my arm when she said that last part. Her jaw clenched. I knew what she meant. She was afraid I'd end up playing dad for free. She was afraid I was still holding on to some childhood crush, some unrealistic fantasy. But that was impossible now. It wasn't that I looked down on her. It was that we were no longer walking on the same path. For a fleeting moment, an image of Chloe flashed in my mind. I shook my head, looked my mother straight in the eye, and made things clear. I'm not thinking about getting married anytime soon. I want to focus on finishing my Ph.D. on my career. Marriage. If it happens, it happens. When I was 30, I met my own Rose. At 35, after much thought, I finally decided to get married. Rose's little girl was our flower girl. She was a little chatterbox. I wish my uncle and aunt 100 years of happiness and lots of babies. The wedding reception was a joyous, chaotic affair. Later that night, the best part, my wife and I sat cross-legged on the bed, excitedly opening wedding cards. Suddenly, she held one up. Hey, there's a big envelope here with no name on it. She was confused. Who's the secret benefactor? I took the envelope. It was thick with cash, and a memory surfaced. That night at the diner, the three of us together, Rose and Chloe, drunk and miserable, half crying, half screaming. Chloe had buried her face in my shoulder, her hot tears soaking through my shirt. I'm getting married, and it's a damn shame the groom isn't you. I won't come to your wedding, but I promise I'll send you the biggest damn wedding gift you've ever seen. After she sobered up, she never mentioned it again. I assumed she'd forgotten, but she remembered. The warmth of that summer night seemed to travel through the crisp bills in my hand, spreading through my chest, a pleasant, burning sensation. Someone probably just forgot to sign it, I said. It's okay, I'll ask around. You can put it away for now. Oh, okay.